Hello, everyone. My name is Rafal, and I would like to welcome everyone into my Headshot Photography podcast. Today, I have very special guest, Traci Martin. She's photographer, but I know her from a lot of social media platforms, and she's amazing digital artist. She creates stunning work. I've been trying to somehow get in touch with her and invite her to my podcast, and finally we were able to do that. So welcome to my podcast. I'm really looking forward to talk to you. There have tons of questions. I know there's a lot of controversy around AI and digital art these days, but I think the best way to, I would say, open this whole thing is through discussion, through understanding both sides of the story, and also the opportunity which AI gave us. And I think a lot of people out there, they're terrified. There's a lot of opinions, and everyone has their own opinion. I feel like, AI creates, I would say, new path for photographers and digital creators and artists. And just by looking at your work, when I saw it first time, I got mastermized. Like I look at it and I couldn't just take my eyes off your work. I was just like studying your stuff, and also I've been getting a lot of inspiration from this work. So that's why I think this conversation is extremely important, especially these days where this whole thing is unfolding at the front of our eyes. And then I just want to say big thank you for accepting my invitation and then joining my podcast.
Well, thank you so much for asking me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it. So before
Yeah.
we jump into some, crazy questions and some, stuff which can unfold what you do, please tell me what was your path into creating your stunning work. I know through brief conversation we have before that you were a photographer before, and now you are kind of transitioning, I don't know, into digital artists. If you could just tell me how this whole thing started and how long time ago, because I know AI for me actually kind of opened not recently. This is something which I've been kind of hearing back and there. Like I've seen some work,
Hmm.
but it seems when I look at your work, like you really way ahead.
Thank you. Well, it's kind of funny. I actually was writing a novel last
Okay.
last spring and summer, and I was using the assistance of an AI writing tech software.
Hmm.
And this writing company came out with an add-on to their software, and it was like an extra $20 a month, and I thought, oh, I'll just see what this is. So I tried it. It was released to the users before it was released to the rest of the public. So I tried that, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And very quickly, like within a week, I was seeing other people in the forum talk about how these other two programs were much better, and they were showing some images from Midjourney and from Stable Diffusion that were really superior, and I was very interested in what that was. So I went and checked that out, and right away I was just like, wow, that novel, I haven't picked that up since that. Because really, first, I'm an artist. I've always been an artist my whole life. I think since I was a little kid, that's how they identified me. And so this is just, it's addictive. It's so fun. It's
Hmm.
such an amazing ability to tap into your creativity,
Hmm.
just so subconsciously. You can just have in, I started in August, and
Okay.
I've created 25,000 images.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean,
So
most people don't see that, but I think I've posted 200 images on my Instagram.
oh okay. Well, I was just scrolling. Well, when I saw you first time, and for whatever reason, Instagram gave me your profile, and I couldn't, like as you said, I couldn't stop watching because it's just
Mhm.
amazing.
Thank
And
you.
then so like tell me a little bit about the process. So like when you started creating those amazing images, because I've saw like when I was looking at your Instagram, there's like kind of progress, right? Like, so there's
Mhm.
some like, those images you can see, they're like a digital manipulated, and just like you could
Sure.
see that there is something going on.
Yeah.
But then the closer you get to the top, the image is getting better and
Better and
better
better.
and better, right? So how does
So when I
process look like?
so when I started, Midjourney was in version had just turned to version 3,
Hmm.
and um, one of the reasons that I actually went so full on, I'm in school right now for art,
Okay.
but I stopped taking art classes. I didn't take any art classes this semester because I actually wanted to go fully into the AI art, because I think it's really important to evolve with this technology while it's evolving. And that's the difference that you're seeing between version 3 and version 4 and all of the updates. And we're only a couple weeks away from version 5, which is supposed to even be that much better than version 4.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, so, and also there's also what you're seeing is my evolution as a prompter, my ability to write better prompts. Some not too much of what I'm doing is, well, actually all of it is edited after, but
Hmm.
not like there. Some stuff is edited a lot more, let's put it
Hmm.
that way. I can't spend time editing 10 photos for a carousel because I usually try to put out 10 images for like a
Okay.
series. But so so my evolution is, I actually didn't start out with the name that I have in Instagram. I kind of started out creating a whole bunch of different things.
Hmm.
And then after a while, I found a theme of what I wanted to make, what I was making more of.
Hmm.
And then I changed my username to Rococo Revivalist because this is what I was really liking. This is what I was enjoying making. And this is kind of the direction I wanted to go. But it's an evolution of the technology, your AI art that you want to make. A lot of AI artists, they focus on one thing, right?
Hmm.
So,
Okay, so let's kind of start like a little bit from the beginning. So like when you
mhm.
discover this, right? Like did you have any kind of challenges, like you have to, like, let's start maybe what software do you use, and then how this whole evolve of on like kind of understanding the software and just creating this art, because you have to start somewhere, right? Because I've tried a little bit, and I know
Mhm.
it's a little bit of process involved, and then you have to have like a little bit of better understanding how you even approach this whole thing.
Mhm.
So did you have to educate yourself, or that was something that you just okay, jump in and try to kind of exploring and experimenting? Like how that process looked like for you?
Yeah, you kind of jump in. You
Yeah,
kind of jump in because
you flutter right
when
away.
this came out, when this came out, nobody knew anything about it, and it
Hmm.
was really a process of, as we were learning, people were sharing things with each other, like, oh, this is how you prompt this. And as people would find, they couldn't create, people think you can create anything. You can't create anything. You can't make a white cat wearing a red hat. The AI just doesn't know how to do that.
Yes.
And so we would give each other challenges. We want to make this, can anybody make this? And so we're, this, you just jump in, everybody's jumping in, nobody knows how to swim. you know
Yes. Oh,
i
absolutely.
started I started with a software called Jasper, which is
Okay.
primarily a writing software, and then I transitioned to Midjourney,
Hmm.
um,
So this
and
is the
that's
one I
primarily
tried to use, and I thought
okay.
was like, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
hmm So um, I primarily use Midjourney. I'm starting to transition into using Stable Diffusion,
Hmm.
which I have set up on my computer locally, which you can use for free if you
Okay.
have that set up on your. You have to have a pretty substantial computer and a dedicated card, with a
Okay.
lot of speed. So I'm starting to do that, which has the Stable Diffusion and Midjourney have a different look, which
Hmm.
people can usually tell this is Stable Diffusion. Well, if you're in the
Okay.
AI, you can tell the difference. Um, and they appeal to different niches of, their looks are different.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of starting to combine the two,
Okay.
is where I'm at.
So what was your like the biggest challenge like when you started off? Like just prompting this whole thing or having the ideas? Because I know like based on what I see on like when it comes to your work, like you have very significant style and you can really see
Mhm.
those images you which we were creating. They have this amazing flavor, right? So it was created throughout a time, like you kind of start getting better and better at this, or you have this like, kind
Mhm.
of like images in your mind which you were going after. Like how that process look like for you?
Are you are you asking about my personal style of
So let's start
the
maybe with those
the
challenges. Like what was your biggest challenge when you started off?
I think the biggest challenge was learning how to overcome the limitations of the software, because I
Hmm.
saw some people could create really beautiful images, and I was like, why does mine look
Hmm.
terrible? So it was really learning how to be a better prompter,
Hmm.
because it's really not as easy as everybody. It's you
Thanks.
just don't. For well, okay, let me qualify that. It
Okay.
is as easy as everybody thinks. You can just write tropical beach, and you could get a beautiful image of a tropical beach.
Hmm.
The difficulty comes in when you want to create an extremely specific image. You want to create a beautiful woman who's got three roses in her hair and she's wearing a specific type of dress with a specific
Hmm.
background. So you're creating an elaborate set with a specific subject, and you want her to have a certain color hair and a certain color eyes. You maybe want to have her ethnicity something, her dress is specific. You can write a very long prompt.
Hmm.
So the challenge becomes balancing the details in your prompt while still having the details in your prompt to maintain the quality that gets that kind of
Hmm.
realism. And you have to
Okay.
kind of find that balance.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about the process? Because we spoke a little bit before we started, and you said that sometimes you mix different software, and then also you adding like a I don't know, just adding some flavor in Photoshop. So so you write your prompt first, and then something comes out, and how that usually works for you is this is like I would like to talk a little bit about the process in specific. So like something comes out, and then you just like, okay, I'm not happy with this, I'm going to add more or remove some stuff and try to kind of play with this to get the look you going after. Can you tell me how well, like how this process look like and how long usually takes you to get from the start to the finish line?
Well, usually I have a specific goal that I'll start
Hmm.
with, like a specific looking image that I want to create. Um, Often now, I'll start with one of my prior images as what's called an image prompt.
Hmm.
Okay, so um, that image is used in, like, the new AI is going to the AI will read that image and create the new image combined with the prompt that I'm going to give it. Um, and then I use a text prompt to change that image based on what I want to do new. So then when I'll have the new images come out, I may revise the prompt. You can add up to 20 images as image prompts. So let's say you have 20 different looks that you want to blend together. You can add all of those into your prompt.
Hmm.
Um, let's say once I get the hair and the dress and the background the way I want it, and the face most of the way, then
Hmm.
I'll take those images and start working on those.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do right now, with your
Mhm.
permission, I'm gonna show like we're gonna go through some of those images later on, but I just want to
Okay.
show people what we're talking about, right?
Sure.
Because I
Hmm.
think we can talk about it on many different levels or angles, but they have to see like how those images look like, right? So let's
Mhm.
jump
Sure.
into this. So we're gonna go through more of them, but let's maybe to make this whole thing easier, maybe we can
Hmm.
let's say talk about this particular
Okay.
image because
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating. And as I said, when I you've heard that a million times from me already, but
Yeah.
your work is really amazing. And I specialize in headshots, and then this is sometimes in my head when I'm trying to create something. You're looking for this perfection, right? And when I saw your images, it's just like this is something what I think is a dream of every photographer to be able to do something like this, right? And I'm not trying to say that
Well,
I'm against AI by any reason. I'm actually thinking on completely opposite way that this is going to bring completely new flavor to photography. And I also
sure.
in a minute we'll talk a little bit about some of those controversies nowadays. I'd like to kind of hear your side of the story because
Mm-hmm.
I personally hear here and there, people arguing about it, but I deeply believe it's like I remember when the digital photography came to the market and everyone was
Mm-hmm.
screaming and kicking that, oh, it's never gonna replace film and it's such a bad
Doesn't look the
quality,
same.
doesn't look the same, and we should just kind of bend this whole thing. But 10 years
Mm-hmm.
later, everyone, we kind of got used to it, right? And now
Sure.
we're just taking advantage of it. And I think this is the same applies to AI. This is new technology which is fascinating and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be exactly kind of the same scenario. So let's go back to this image. So if you could just tell
Okay.
me a little bit about the process of creating, let's say, that image, how does process look like? You have the idea behind it, and then you were
Mm-hmm.
slowly navigating to get that look.
So this particular image is largely based off Marie Antoinette. I
Hmm.
have another image. I know exactly what image this was based off of in my portfolio. So I used that as an image prompt. But what I did is I changed the hair and tried to make it really big and combed up in the front. And I wanted
Hmm.
curls on the side. So that was part of the prompt. I wanted these, it didn't quite do it exactly the way I wanted, but I wanted barrel curls on the side and combed up smooth in the front. It kind of did that. I
Okay.
wanted I wanted roses in the hair and
Hmm.
then curls down the side. And the blue, and I wanted her wearing a blue velvet gown with gold
Hmm.
trim. So that was pretty well achieved, and
So how
with white
long
hair and with blue
did
eyes.
it take you to create that?
For most of these, I work on them for about 2 days.
Oh wow. Okay. So like when do you know it's a good? This is something what you're looking for. Like you have this like wow moment, okay, this is it, or you have like, okay, this is not perfect. I still need to work on those things. How does creative process look like for you?
Sometimes sometimes I get to where I look at it and I think, that's too far. and then I go,
Okay.
then I go back to a few edits
Mhm.
before. Do you ever get to that point? Somebody's skin is
Okay.
too smooth or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I make their eyes too big or their lips too.
Mhm.
They don't look like this when they come out of Midjourney.
Mhm.
They really don't. They have all of this debris on their faces and their
Mhm.
eyes are different sizes and it's really there's a lot of editing that goes into that.
Okay.
So it's
So
just
in this
really about
particular
making them go ahead.
no, so in this particular image, so
Mhm.
was just the AI, or you've done some Photoshop on the top of it, or any other
No, this is
software?
it's a Photoshop, a lot of retouching.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
just in the
So,
face.
okay, so can you tell me what's AI has the biggest challenge? Like, so you're creating something, and then you see that the
Mhm.
AI cannot really kind of overcome, or
Yeah,
is
hands,
anything which, sorry,
hands. AI can't
hands?
do hands. Yeah, you'll see
Okay,
that. You'll see that any AI image. Hands are the biggest challenge right now.
challenge. So what is
Always, it's the beginning.
always? So what is the easiest part for AI to create, and it looks really um, real?
Um, I think probably animals. AI can
Okay.
do, and the reason I say this is that we have this little contest in our
Mhm.
AI art community, and we try and fool each other: is this AI or is this real?
Hmm.
And so far, animals are the only thing that have been able to fool people.
Okay.
With landscapes, there are still, it can't do the patterns naturally. You can tell it's a pattern. Animals, you can really get a really convincing portrait.
Convincing portrait. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, so let's jump to this one. Let's jump to the next one.
Yeah.
This was kind of I'll tell you a little story because
Okay.
when I saw your
Not not my
your
favorite one.
when I saw your images, I ran to my wife and I'm just like, you gotta see this. And she was looking at this screen like she got like I don't know electrocuted for whatever reason. It's like this is just out of this world. I'm like, just look more, and we were just like both like hypnotized looking at your images.
Oh.
Like that's just stunning. So tell me a little about those images. This one was really caught my eyes. And then I know there's some issues with the hand, and then this is when you actually point this out. I actually just like saw this right now,
Well,
but tell me
actually,
about
this
this creation.
I'm so embarrassed actually that you took this image because this is such a bad image.
It's a bad image. Okay, no,
It's such a
well,
bad image. Well, because then I'll show you. I'll tell you why, and you'll look at it
okay.
and you'll go, oh yeah, because I just taught this was for like I had to get something out really quickly, and the other images, I think it was for a roses contest or just not
Hmm.
contest, but we do like a thing every day and I just needed to get something out. And I really love these red rose wigs that I do.
Yes.
And so this was when you prompt it, it makes a grid of 4. And
Hmm.
it did some of these headshot rose wigs, and then it did some of these that had a really big. It just interpreted like this wig was so big it was encompassing her whole
Okay.
body,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So that's supposed to be like that wig goes all the way down to her hips,
yeah.
which is funny. But if you look down where her elbow is, and you
Yes.
can see those roses are really messed up
Yes.
because I used Photoshop Mobile while I was just in bed at night, and
Hmm.
there was an arm that went off of her elbow.
Hmm.
So
Well, I see this
I
now.
cloned it out with my
Yeah.
finger. And I was just like, I really like the picture, so I'm just gonna throw it in there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
it's
think
really
what
good.
I got caught attention was the roses wig. I think that's where my
Yeah,
focus was. And then
yeah,
now, actually, when I'm looking at it like closer, then I can kind of analyze some things. But I
yeah,
think the concept itself, the pose, the idea,
yeah,
it's really cool. But I think again, this is like it's a process, right? It's something that we learn from the mistakes, and then we improve it, and we're doing this better or getting better results. And then
yeah.
as like photography, I think it's kind of exactly the same process, that it takes time. We're learning for a lot of mistakes till we get to this level where we're comfortable and we're happy with the results, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so let's jump to the yeah, go.
No, I was just gonna say, I think as a photographer, something I hope to get to and evolve out of this is creating like this kind of a set. You can do this digitally with a model. You create this and you Photoshop her into this pose. I think
Yeah.
the possibilities for photographers are pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and this is what I pointed out already, I think, a few times. The AI can create images which can be inspiration for photographers, and
Mm-hmm.
it can give us some guideline, okay, which direction we can go. And I'll tell you a little story, which I did like a similar photo shoot, I don't know, like 10 years ago, and I did with some hairstylists who try to actually create something like this, not to this extent, but like big hair, some roses in it, and he couldn't do it. Like it was just a mess, right? Like he was trying. There's lock like a. Well, it's just like we try hard, but
Yeah,
there's no way we were able to achieve that, right?
it's a
And that's
lot.
why I think,
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
that's when I saw your images. I'm like, wow, you can actually create something like this. So you can have the wildest idea, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can create an image from this concept, right? Which
Yeah.
in reality might be much harder. Okay, sorry, I kind of interrupt you. So
No, go ahead.
no,
That's okay.
okay. So
Let's move
let's
on.
move on to the next one.
Yeah,
So let's go to this one.
yeah.
So tell me about this image. How?
So this is one of my favorite images, actually.
Okay.
It's one of my last one of my last images that I've created. This was a Valentine's Day image, and what my goal was here was to create a sort of, it's kind of Baroque, Rococo kind of
Hmm.
Spanish Latina kind of lady, and the underlying theme with this is that kind of Latin sensuality,
Hmm.
passionate kind of thing is what I was going for with, and what you'll see in a lot of my images, the roses are really large.
Yes.
That's what I really like, these really large, oversized hair and roses,
Hmm.
um, which I think it's like I take the Rococo definition and
Hmm.
I make that bigger.
Okay. So that's like you. So can you see that your style is started kind of shaping, and you see this
Mhm.
kind of like a direction which you're
Mhm.
going?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. And
That's
this one looks really realistic. Like when I saw this, like yeah, I'm not saying you will be able to create something like this, but like it's really convincing for me, and it's
mhm.
has this amazing face expressions, and then the style and the colors, everything is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. This one is another one which I really liked. So
Hmm.
this is a little bit more. It reminds me from this movie. I don't know, Brave. I don't
Hmm.
know if you know this
Okay.
cartoon. Yeah, my son
Yeah.
loves that. So like when I saw this, I'm just like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So this, I think this one came from um, a lot of my images. I try and have them have some sort of a story,
Hmm.
something that motivates the image, and I believe this one was. A lot of my images are kind of royalty based, so
Hmm.
when I'll look in Wikipedia and I'll find a family that has like 7 daughters or kids, and I'll create an image that represents each of these kids, and it's a Scottish family.
Hmm.
I'll kind of manipulate the story a little bit in my head, but this is the goal that I'm going for. And again, making the hair as big as possible, and just these luxurious fabrics and
Hmm.
textures, and just
Okay.
looking for that kind of rich, the richness.
Hmm. So do you have some kind of like mood boards you creating, or you have just tried to visualize those things, or you have some concept in your head and you try to kind of go after, like how this creative process look like for you?
No, I think one of the benefits to AI is that it's really something that kind of flows. So you
Hmm.
kind of get into this creative process. Sometimes it gives you things that you don't even know that you wanted.
Okay.
And so that's part of that. I think that's a huge part of the benefit of the AI process, is that it can come up with things that we never really could conceptualize before. And
Hmm.
sometimes you just take it and then you run with it and you
Yes.
create more from that.
Okay.
So I try not to have too many constraints when I start. Sometimes I do definitely have like a color palette or
Mhm.
something, but not too much.
So, can you tell me like about one of those wow moments when you got some image and you were just like blown away? Like how like like I'm guessing is addictive, right? Because it's like photography or anything like this. When you create something and you just like, okay, I create something which is really amazing. Like how that feels for you.
I think it was definitely after they made version 4. They made version 4. I think one of the later images that you wanted to look at, when I started working with fur, because
Hmm.
like I said, it can do animals really well. So during the winter, I started working with velvet and fur, putting fur around the necks, and then having like this really wintry scene, and having just the contrast between the darks and the lights, having like dark lipstick with very pale skin. And I think I had a lot of wow moments myself in that, where I thought, wow, this is really stunning, had a
Hmm.
very striking look. So um, the fur just has a really, like, it's almost like it just looks, you just want to touch it,
Yeah.
you know? So
Well, and there's also a lot of controversy about fur these days, right?
sure, yeah.
It's just crazy. I actually a few years back before COVID, I'm originally from Poland, so we went to this fashion show, and there's like one designer who has like pieces of fur, and
Hmm.
people lost their mind. Like they just like tried to destroy the guy, and then. But what was funny, like I'm not saying I support this because like you might get a lot of
Right.
backlash,
No.
but from one hand people just eating burgers and then
Yeah.
doing all this crazy stuff, but when they see the fur all of a sudden they lose their mind.
Yeah,
um
actually have put on some of my posts, the costume that they were on. I'll say fit in a fake fur, in a fake fur dress or something. And you would be surprised that a lot of people appreciate that. That I'll actually
yes.
say it's even though it's a fake image, I still call it
They
fake fur.
Oh wow. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about because we talk a little bit about there's some controversy, there is some
Mhm.
backlash. So what, in your opinion, people don't get, what they don't understand? Like why do you think this whole kind of, I don't know, this crusade against AI, it's happening, and what people don't get it, like because I don't see anything wrong with that, and I don't know why people just so terrified and so scared, and why they go so after you to kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just discourage you, and then just say that everything what you do is wrong. Like it's just like I don't understand. So what's your take on this? If we can discuss this, of course.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different issues. Um, there's like the ethical aspect of it, and then there's the is this even art aspect of it.
Hmm.
A lot of people just say AI art isn't art because the computer made it, not the person.
Hmm.
Some people say go be an author because you're writing words, not creating a picture.
Hmm.
Which is just, I think the authors would have a problem with that because you're not making a book. Um, from the ethical standpoint, that's a lot. It's all in court now, which is good because then a decision will come down one way or the other. And the AI companies, I think what people don't get is the lawsuit is between the artists and the AI companies, not between the artists and the artists and the people using the software. If
Hmm.
the AI companies scrape the internet and now are selling a product, that's where the damages were done.
Hmm.
Because if I go and take pictures of 100 images, let's say I take all of your images and I scan them into my computer and I use each one as a single pixel,
Hmm.
would you ever know that I did that? You would
No.
never know. Like one of your images turns into a red pixel. I use that. That's not how AI art is created. But let's say hypothetically that it was, that would be a derivative work. You,
Mhm,
you could never tell. It's not taking anything from your work as an artist. You're not losing business because I used your
mhm.
art pixel by pixel.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, for an artist to have a loss, there has to be some proof that their work is being used.
Mhm,
And I think a lot of artists, they don't, I don't know. It, it's not illegal to make derivative works. Derivative works have always been legal
mhm.
and protected.
Well, I 100% agree with you on this one. And then I had this conversation a while ago with someone who was just like, "Oh, those images are taken from internet and they put together and like whatever, right?" But that's what we do, as an artist, right? Like artist
Mhm.
takes bunch of different ideas, mix them up, and try to come up with something new. The difference here is that we're doing this in a little bit of different form, right? Like the
Mhm.
computer or AI or some kind of software is working on it, right?
Yeah,
So, but don't you think this whole thing comes as we talk from fear that people are kind of terrified of this and they kind of
yeah,
scared of that there's something which is just way beyond that, right? Because like seeing something like this, I think that you can really take take any creativity, any ideas to completely different level, and then people are just kind of scared to death that there's something which is creating way better stuff that they were ever able to do.
Yeah, I think people are afraid that they're. I think it's a scary anytime you have the thought that you're replaceable by
Hmm.
something that can be so much better than you. But I think artists, um, I think you have any artist can use this. That's the thing. There
Hmm.
are people who want to be artists who are handicapped, who can't make real art, like physical art, but
Hmm.
can make AI art. So it's given a voice to people. But the fear is real. I'm going to say that the fear is valid. Part of the reason why I actually really looked into this is because as an artist, it was something that I was afraid of. I looked at that and thought, why am I in art school if this is going to come in? And just, when I was in the 90s, when computers started getting really, really big, and I thought, I better learn how to how to do this. That's
Hmm.
what I thought. I better learn how to do this, or I'm going to be passed by. And
Hmm.
so I learned how to use Word, and I eventually became a web designer in
Hmm.
the late 90s. And you can't let fear. I mean, if you shut the door on it, then you're going to be in the dark, and everybody else is going to go forward.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that
AI is here to stay. It's not going to go
yes.
away.
Well, that's another thing, right? This is not something we can kill it and just. And I think when we talk a little bit, there's like a quote from I think Charles Darwin, right? You're either going to adopt to this, environment, or you're going to be out. So
Yeah,
I think instead fighting against this, maybe we can look at it,
sure.
how we can use it, how we can take advantage of it, how this whole thing can improve. What do we do? And I think that would be the right approach, right? But
Because here's the reality. Other, let's say in the case of photographers, there are a million photographers already using AI art to help inspire them, maybe do concepts, whatever, experiment with different makeup looks, maybe different hairstyles, whatever they're doing, those photographers are already doing it. So some people already have that advantage. Doesn't mean people have to do it, but there are people who are already ahead of the curve.
yeah, but I think it's an amazing tool, right? Something
Mm-hmm.
that we never had before, and then as I said, opens new opportunities, and then we can really look at even photography from completely different perspective, right? Because as I said, like even when I found you and I started going through your images, your creations, I got extremely inspired. I was just like, wow, this is something that really brings tons of new ideas to my head, and what I can do, what I would like to do. So just give you the new direction to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of potential. And I think also it's not just because we focus right now on
Mm-hmm.
portraits, but I told you yesterday I was watching some AI creations for architecture, and I was
Yeah.
just like, this is just insane. And then on
Yeah.
the positive way, right? This is something
Yeah.
that the architects can take advantage. They can start
Mm-hmm.
creating things which they never even dream of.
Of
um,
course.
so from one hand, I get it. People are scared because they might lose jobs or whatever. But from the other hand, they can really elevate whatever they do
Mm-hmm.
to a completely different level, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's jump to some other images, and then I'm gonna have some more questions. So let's take a look at this one.
Okay.
So that was like a recent one, right? Like I saw this.
Maybe a month ago,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah. So this one actually kind of came about in a different way.
Mhm.
I was trying to do um, a series on women that were based on
Mhm.
zodiac sign, and um, I was trying to do a specific color for each sign of the zodiac,
Okay.
and so this particular series came out, and I just really loved the color palette and the way that it worked. with the African American women. So I decided to create this. There's actually a series of the women,
Yes.
and create a fictional country that they're from, and give them each a personality, and their colors of their country are gold and purple.
Mhm.
So that's how that.
Yeah. So I just want to mention, for people who are watching, if they're gonna go to your Instagram, because I tried to pick one image from each series, because
Mm-hmm.
you not only put one image, you're just putting series of images which are like have the same kind of concept, the same idea. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to pick the one which I like the most. So this one
Okay.
really kind of caught my attention, and I love the colors. I love this entire concept. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to some um, crazy hair, which I really love.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just my attempt to push the AI to get the Rococo
Mhm.
big hair. For a while, we were working with all square format. We couldn't get a rectangular format at all. So one of the things I actually really like is doing these giant side buns. I kind of
Mhm.
that's a kind of signature thing that I like to do even before that. But um, so I try to build it out wider than I do taller, even
Mhm.
now that we have vertical
Perfect.
formats back. But just trying to make it bigger.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, bigger
And
the
looks
better.
good. Looks amazing. I think adds so much flavor to the image. Something that it's really kind of has some completely different well, the feel to the image, and then like you creating something which is really yeah, well, it's kind of hard to just kind of swipe, right? Like you gotta just stop and just analyze it a little bit more. So let's kind of drift a little bit away and tell me,
Mhm.
like, what's your goal with this? Like, are you trying to master these creations, or you have, I don't know, like, I'm gonna push it even, like, are you trying to maybe like do exhibition of your work? Like, what's your kind of, like, I'm not saying end goal, but like what's
Mhm.
your direction?
Um, it's right now this software or tech. I'll say a technology because it's evolving so rapidly.
Hmm.
So right now, my immediate goal is to just stay in touch with what is currently evolving, because
Hmm.
it's literally changing weekly.
Okay.
Um, and in the meantime, what I'm trying to do, because this is a whole different genre for me, and
Hmm.
so I'm trying to um, develop my own personal, style. What I
Hmm.
want to, you develop a artist statement, and I think eventually I would like to get back into photography and combine, because I do get a lot of requests
Hmm.
for people to have me put them into these portraits.
Okay.
So I know that I know I'll have a base of customers when I decide to go back into portraiture, to actually use people's real faces in
Hmm.
these images. Yeah, there's definitely a market there for that.
Yeah. I never thought about it, but when you said about it, I'm like, wow, that would be just something amazing. I'm sure there will be like people would be so interested to have this like concept, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put you there and create his art.
Yeah, and
Um,
I have already done some commissions for
okay.
people. Yeah. So I've done them for
Wow. Okay.
free because I just didn't feel like I could charge people at this point, because I'm still really just learning.
Yeah.
But I think at a certain point I won't charge people.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think, yeah, again, another idea for those
Mhm.
ones who are scared of AI, how
Sure.
they can take
Of
advantage of
course.
it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump to the next one. The purple
Hmm. Hmm.
girl,
Purple.
purple look,
Purple,
maybe.
more purple and gold.
Yes.
Yeah. So this one was actually for, we have days, we have a community where we
Hmm.
all try and do the same theme. So this was a purple and gold day. And I think this is an example of where, you might not think to pin satin fabric on a girl like that, or
Yeah.
hot glue it to her skin.
Yeah.
But maybe you have a swatch of fabric laying around and you need gold in your image, but that's
Yeah.
not a dress. That's not a dress really, but it sure looks like something.
Look.
And yeah, the hair. I love the texture of the hair in this. It just looks so soft.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. It was just more purple and gold. I like that color palette with African American women.
Absolutely. So, again, we're gonna switch the gears. So, who inspires you? Like, do you have anyone in your community who like really stands out, and someone who like inspires you, or you just kind of like on your own path?
Mm, I would say I'm actually more inspired by historical painters than I am by AI artists or by any modern artists.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do. I'm studying more of the artists from the 17 and 1800s than I am. I'm trying not to really copy anybody else that's living.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, again, copying, I don't think it's a bad thing. If there is something which looks cool, why not
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
right? Because that's how I think we're getting inspired by seeing things like, okay, they have some ideas, they have
For
some
sure.
concepts, some.
I think that in the AI community, there is so much. There's so much. It's so easy to copy another person that I'm
Mhm,
actually more interested in trying to stay ahead of that
mhm,
and not trying to look like somebody else. Not because I don't want to copy them, but because I want to be individual. I want to have, my own thing. Um, and so I try not to really, I don't know how that sounds, but I try not to look like I'm copying somebody else. I'd rather my work looks distinctly like my work.
mhm. Absolutely. Well, I think those things also takes time, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just a lot of work, a lot of, effort to, I don't know, just navigate through so
Mm-hmm.
many different images and creations till you like we start seeing what we like and what kind of appeals to our taste and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump in. This one is really stunning. It's, I think, one of the older.
This is
uh,
more a version 4 had come out with this one. I don't I don't remember. I think this was probably around maybe in December.
mhm,
Um, but I think this is before I really figured out a lot, but I
mhm.
really loved the fact that I got her hair so big. I loved that, and I was working on getting the dresses really big. Also, there in this series, the dresses are like super huge and poofy. Not
Mhm.
this specific one, but around the neck, there's just really big, puffy. Just the whole thing is just puffy. All of it,
Just
the hair,
stands
the
out.
dress. Yeah, it's all about being just as big as possible.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to more futuristic looks. If you could just tell me a little about
Hmm.
this one.
So this one, this is based on a series of different ethnicities of
Hmm.
women who are living in a future world in the 3000s sometime. And each woman in the series is a different ethnicity. I think this one was Greek
Hmm.
or Iranian or something. Um, when you prompt a specific ethnicity, you will get a really specific looking ethnicity. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I haven't mentioned, but what I'll do is I'll prompt the clothing and the backgrounds, and I'll specifically do a really up close face shot
Hmm.
and prompt the eyebrows and the eyes and the mouth and all of that separately, and then
Hmm.
I'll combine them in Photoshop because Photoshop can't, or sorry, Midjourney can't do the elaborate background and the hair and all
Hmm.
of that and do the really great face at the same time.
Hmm.
So those will be two different images that I'll make.
Oh, okay. So it's like, again, it's just like a couple steps you have to go through
Yeah.
in order
So it's
to.
really a photo composition.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, and we're gonna go to the last one. Let's go back to our fur, and this
Yes.
is like more natural look.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, go ahead.
so it's more like a recent creation, or this is something which you've done a while ago?
I think this is actually maybe even before the redheaded one. I don't actually.
Okay.
I don't know. It
Mhm.
was in the winter. It was in the winter. Um, it's kind of funny, but I was doing ermine in the animals. White. They're white animals, but I was putting them in Victorian clothing. And I just love the animals, the ermine animals, and they have pictures of them in the snow with red berries. And
Mhm.
this is the kind of I made some women wearing ermine, having the capes, and I so this is kind of like an ermine, which is an all white animal, and they have the winter berries. So this was like a snow theme, if you can imagine that, with like the red lips or like the berry. That was kind of I don't know. That sounds really weird, but that was kind of my motivation to
Motivation.
have like this snowy looking girl with the red lips was motivated by that. If I
Absolutely.
showed you the image, you would understand the significance of it.
Yes.
Because to have this pure white animal in the snow with only a red berry, it really stands out. It's very striking.
Yeah. Well, because the color, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just is a really big contrast. I think. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
blue and red, it's just kind of on the opposite side of
Mm-hmm.
the color spectrum, and I think that's why it
Mm-hmm.
just pops up, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah.
And I like working with the complementary color palettes a lot. Um, I think that just really it looks nice on the page and
Yeah.
it really pops.
Absolutely. So when you create a series of, let's say, images, how
Mm-hmm.
you kind of like trying to keep, because it seems like when I look at your series, they have some connections, right? So there's images which look similar, but they have this like a one element which connects those. Like, so how do you approach that? So let's say, I don't know, big hair, and then you're just creating a bunch of different images and you're just picking the right one, or how does process look like?
Uh, yeah, yeah. It just depends on what I decided that specific group of images is going to be about. It might be about big hair with roses in the hair. It might be about the dress. It
Mhm.
might be about these are just some of the things. The hair and eye color is a big theme that I go off of. Hair and dress color, hair and roses in the hair, um, ethnicity. Those could be some, and then I just start making a bunch of images, and I could make, I could work a couple days making the images before I pick the ones that I want to go with, and then edit those. But
Absolutely.
I might make 100 images to pick 10 of them.
Mhm. It's like in photography, you're shooting like
Oh
crazy,
yeah.
and then you just
On
picking
my
the camera.
iPhone, I have 12,000 images on my iPhone, which I have to
Oh
go
wow,
through and delete. Yeah, I need to get rid of that.
wow. Well, so tell me, what do you think is the future of AI when it comes to creating those type of images? Because you've mentioned before that this whole, not only this whole thing is just changing drastically. By weekly we see some
Mhm.
improvement and some stuff, but like, what do you think we're gonna see in the next 5-10 years?
Well, one of the things that I have been wondering about is I think that there has to be some way that they're going to put AI into a camera.
Mhm.
That's, we have
I think they
computer.
already have that, right? Don't they? They, like, when it comes to autofocus and stuff, the sensor, or the processor can analyze if this is animal or
No,
human. They already
I
have.
think, I think more along the lines of impacting what you're actually changing, what you're actually. photographing. Like, let's say
Okay.
you can program something into your camera, change the setting, maybe a filter or something. I don't know. I
Mhm.
think this is the hard thing about AI. A couple years ago, you can't really conceptualize the idea that we can write a picture with words. That's
Mhm.
not a thing we've ever had in our vocabulary. So it's really hard to try and fathom what's going to come in the next 10 years and think about where we were in
Mhm.
2013. AI
Yeah.
wasn't even that. So I think a lot of jobs are going to open up in the art industry for people who use AI.
Mhm.
Um, that's really what my goal was. Is I just wanted to know how to do it because I'm kind of excited to see where it goes, and I want to be able to say, "Hey, I have the skills to do this. I've been in this since the very beginning.
Mhm.
Let me try." you know, let me try.
So what was the like when you look at when you started,
Mhm.
and what you can do right now, like how this whole thing progressed, like what was the biggest change you can see right now and then when you started? We talk a little bit about the hands and stuff, but is there anything else like you've noticed is drastic change that improves?
Yeah, I think drastically, the photorealism has
Mhm.
just changed dramatically. Before, it was just really obvious that you make an image and you'd be like, "Wow, that's a girl." you
Yeah.
know, that's a girl. We could tell that's a girl.
Okay.
Now it's like, "Wow,
It's a
that girl's
girl.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful girl." you know, and you can still tell it's AI. You know, so I think there's in the future, it's going to be extremely difficult to tell
Hmm.
the difference between humans and AI, which is
So
that I think that's the fear for a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But
I
with photography, let me just add this: photography is never going to go away because people are always going to want real pictures of their real people. That's never going
Yeah,
to go
well,
away.
it depends, right? Because if we're going to be able, as you said, and this is something which really hits me right now when you said maybe they're going to be, well, I'm sure they will. It's just a matter of time. They're going to be able to implement AI into cameras where they can really fix things on the spot, or adjust the lighting, or just make this whole thing super cool. And then maybe they're going to be able to put this in the cameras, like the cell phones, that this camera is going to be able to do that. We see this at
Right.
there's a I think the first stages of doing this. It's not
Sure.
perfect and it's far from perfect, but as you said, this whole thing is progressing. It's not going to stop. It's just going to speed up, and it's going to get better and better and better and better.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's like everything else. Back in it, I remember when internet kind of came to our life.
Hmm.
I remember my grandfather was like, "What the hell is this?" It's just well, the funny thing is he couldn't understand what it is, and then
Yeah.
he was really against this. But
Yes.
then for so many people, it's just like, oh my God, this is giving new
It's
opportunities. We
amazing.
can just completely
Of
change
course.
the world, and that's what happened, right? And I think AI is the
Hmm.
next another level. Right now we're freaking out, but who knows? Like I'm using quite often lately Chat GPT for a lot of things, right? And
Hmm.
again, it's
Yeah.
just like makes my life easier, and it's pretty good. And I don't know, 5-10 years from now, like who knows, we're not going to be need, I don't know, lawyers or whatever, right? But
think
that's
about what think about what the internet was when it started to how it was 10 years from where it was,
Mhm,
let's say 1995 to 2005. It was
mhm.
a huge evolution.
Yes,
Not
yes.
that I don't the internet was before 95, but well, that's when it started for me.
Mm.
So um yeah, I think I can't even really wrap my head around what AI will be doing in 10 years. I
Yeah,
can
well,
kind of think
none of
around
us
what it
can.
will be like in a year, maybe, but 10 years, I can't even.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's going to be implemented in a lot of aspects of our life. And actually, I had this discussion with with my wife the other day, because I remember several years ago when everyone was just, I don't know, like the people were scared that the robot's gonna take restaurants, and there will be no.
Right.
And then I'm just like, now look at what AI can do. Like they can take all this, like high paid jobs too, right? And nobody even thought
Yeah.
about it. And
Right.
now it's just becoming the reality. And especially, like I see some stuff that, there's some marketing companies and they start using Chat GPT, and 20 employees, they
Yep.
going out because this whole thing can do much quicker, much more efficient, and they don't have to pay them a dime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So absolutely. So is there anything where you kind of scared what the AI can do? Like, is there anything you just like, okay, this is going too far? Or do you think we should put some, okay, this is the fine line, or there we can put some, I don't know, just we cannot push it across some specific lines, or you just want to just kind of keep this right open and see what happens?
Um, I think I think the way I think the AI companies are handling it pretty ethically right now. I think they definitely have filters that are they're monitoring it as far as where it evolves to and what they're currently looking at having it do. I would say the only thing that I worry about is what they put in the hands of kids.
Hmm.
I do worry about that. What we make too easy and too accessible for kids in limiting their creativity, making
Hmm.
things too easy. A kid doesn't have to draw anything now because they can just type an image and have it created. And
Hmm.
I do worry about that a little bit.
But don't you
Yeah.
think that might be like the new way of creating stuff? Because I think
I think that
we grow up in completely different world, and then
sure.
like when you see, let's say, our parents generation, and we would tell them about internet, they'd be just like, they couldn't even know what to do with this. Now, like we went through, like our generation went through that, and like the next
Mhm.
generations, they're going to have AI at their disposal, and they're going to be able to, I don't know, just move the world to completely different level, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I just
Yeah.
think maybe this is happening too quick. I don't know what's
Yeah.
your opinion on this, but it's the progress is just insane. Like I think when the AI was introduced and kind of like put to people's hands, and I remember when I first time went on Chat GPT and started kind of like playing with it, I was just like, holy smokes, this is like completely new world. And it's
Yeah.
the capability is just beyond what we can even imagine.
Totally. And there's a lot you can learn with it too. With Chat GPT, I've been trying to get it to write a sestina, and through
Mhm.
the process of trying it to get it to do that, I'm having to go back and write sestina to make it
Mhm.
understand the format of the sestina. So in that way, I'm reinforcing that learning for myself.
Mhm.
So, in that process of using AI, and in the same way, I would say with AI art, um, more people are going and studying art history now because millions of
Mhm.
people are doing AI art, though were not previously artists. But they want to know, what style is this painting? What style of clothing is that? How do I get this look? What
Mhm.
artist did that? And so there's this huge,
Shift, yeah.
resurgence of classical art or postmodernist art, or all the people are interested in this now in a
Mhm.
different way because they're actively using it. It's like saying people are going out and learning algebra because they need to use it in this new job that
Mhm.
didn't exist 6 months ago. So,
Yeah, definitely force you to, as you said, think more broadly and then just dig into
mhm,
some history, into some other concept, other ideas. But I think also, even the AI creates art. With AI we can
mhm,
create art, but also
mhm.
we have to feed with something, and it's not comes out of
Sure.
nothing, right? We need to
No.
study and learn and dig more into this. So maybe, as you said, that this is going to be like a completely different shift where people are going to be more creative because they're going to know that the more I understand, I don't know, concepts or ideas or I don't know, history of art, I'm going to be
Mhm.
better at creating something completely different, new, and something was going to
and
be
and I
super.
think I think that's is definitely sets some AI artists apart from other people who use AI art. programs
Mhm.
is that people who are writing prompts that include composition, color palettes, pose, you can pose somebody in a specific pose. You have a camera angle shot, you have
Mhm.
lighting, you can use Rembrandt lighting or use rim
Mhm.
lighting or all of it, anything you want to add. It's just like composing any kind of a picture.
Mhm.
Anybody who has this knowledge has an advantage over somebody who just writes a beautiful girl on a blue background wearing a red dress. It's
Yeah.
That's going to look totally different, and it's going to produce a very similar picture to everybody else who writes a beautiful girl
Mhm.
against a blue background with a red dress. The more you know about art terminology, art history, art tech, the more stylized you can make it and keep it specific to you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I just want to give one example, like which is kind of interesting. I remember when I started, you know, well, when I became photographer, it took me so many years to like understand certain things, right? Because it's like you
yeah.
need to kind of wrap your brain around it and you have to understand it. And one of those things which was interesting was symmetry. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know when people looking at the images, they love symmetry because the more
Sure.
symmetrical image, and we have this like nice composed image where there's a clear symmetry. It just looks, I don't know, just appealing to our eyes. And I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
say like because I'm going to sound like an idiot. It took me like 10 years to understand that. And now like I see your images and they like so perfect symmetry, right? And it's like you somehow had to implement that right into the image.
Well, can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I actually use cut and paste, and I flip stuff.
Okay.
There's actually that's intentional. I'll take
Yes.
one thing Midjourney is famous for is it makes a very wonky face.
Mm-hmm.
So you can add
Flip
symmetry
it.
to
Yeah.
your prompt, and then you can take, let's say, this eye, you like this eye, so you cut it and paste it, and you
Mm-hmm.
put it on this side, so their eyes are the same, and you place them symmetrically even. And
Okay.
then I might have to inflate one side of the mouth a little bit and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
balance that out. Yeah,
But still you need to understand that symmetry is
of
important,
course,
right?
of course, yes,
Yeah, but if you don't know, like you probably would never understand that. And then well,
sure.
like I know I understand that, but what I'm saying is you need to have that knowledge. This is exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to have
Mm-hmm.
understanding of lighting, you have to have understanding of all those other elements which you have to bring together to make the image work.
Right.
So I have a one more, well, a couple more questions. So first of all, what I
Okay.
want to ask you, do you think that photographers these days should jump into AI and play with it, and or they should kind of stay away from it? Like what would be your advice?
I think that photographers, if they want to, should definitely
Hmm.
um, jump into it. I mean, I think it costs $10 a month to get the cheapest Midjourney plan, which
Hmm.
you get like 200 images a month,
Okay.
and you can use your own images that you photograph as image prompts, and who knows what you inspire yourself to create. What
Absolutely.
can it hurt for you to, you don't have to publish it if you don't want to, or put it anywhere publicly, but what
Just to
can it hurt
learning
for you
process.
to learn about it? I think shining a light on anything that you might be afraid of is probably the best way
Mhm.
to get past that fear.
Absolutely. Is there anywhere you like, so the way you learn this stuff, it's pretty much on your own because you said there's a community. Are there any mentors out there who like helping people out, or how this whole
Mm-hmm.
thing? Because it's fairly new, right? So like
It is
how
very
you
new.
learn all this stuff, because it seems like you just also getting better and better and better. So it's like mostly just from trying out, or you have someone out there who's like, okay, you know what, try this, or like
It's a
how the learning process
combination.
look like? Okay.
So Midjourney is Discord based, which is an app,
Mm-hmm.
and so on Discord, Midjourney has a really large server, which has like 9 million people on it,
Oh, wow.
which is
I heard
huge.
it's like $3 million a day or something to run this. I read this somewhere. I don't know if this is true or
I
not,
don't know,
but apparently it's like
it's the
a
largest server on
okay, the
Discord with
planet.
Midjourney, and they're talking about having to split it because it's getting too big. Yeah, And then I'm a part of a smaller server called the AI art community.
Hmm.
And I'm a bigger part of that community, which is where I was a mod for a while until I got busy with school. And we have a lot of content. We have a contest every day. We have a lot of larger contests like art tournaments where you group up with
Okay.
2 or 3 people and we have a theme every couple of days, and then people vote, and then the winners get their art focused on Instagram. But it's just a very friendly community.
Okay.
The whole AI art community is friendly. If you want to know how to do something, you can just ask, and
Hmm.
people are really eager to jump in and try and figure out how to do a prompt and try and help you with the prompt and share their prompts with you. And
Oh,
yeah, it's a
wow.
very open, and you know, anybody's just really welcome to come in and say, I want to learn. And people are really, there is also the Learn Mid Journey, which is kind of an offshoot of the AI art community, and that's more for like formal lessons. If you
Hmm.
want to pay somebody who's really good in AI art to instruct you on how to do, how, if you're really brand new and you don't know anything and you want to.
Yeah. But that's also, I think, it's amazing. I think the new, well, the new technologies were their kind. Because, like, again, I just want to give a little bit of photography experience. Because I remember when I started photography, nobody wants to like help you. Like, you just on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you, I remember I went to this one place in Calgary where I live, and there was this like known photographer. I'm like, hey, I want to work for free for you. Just kind of
Mm-hmm.
help me a little bit to understand, and so I can kind of watch. And then I'm like, I can spend whatever amount of time you need me. I just want to learn from you. And he just like
Right.
threw me out, right? I'm just like, holy shit. But he went out of the
No.
business within the couple years. As
Oh
soon as the
no.
digital came in, it was just like he was
Yeah.
done. But now I found, it's completely different story. People are more friendly. They're
Yeah.
willing to share their knowledge. They help you. So I'm kind of happy that this community have that already in place.
Yes.
That they're more open, and that they're not gonna like, okay, this is mine, and I'm not gonna tell you how I've done it.
Well,
And
some people are definitely like that.
yeah, but
Some
but
people
in
are.
general, like, if you ask
In
someone
general.
politely, they will definitely help you. So
Yeah.
my last question is, for
Mhm.
someone who would like to start this journey of creating this digital art, like, what would be your advice?
As how to get started, you mean?
How to get started? Yeah, let's say someone,
Yeah.
I want to do something like, maybe not the same, but something
Mhm.
in that kind of caliber. Like, what would be your advice to these people who just starting up? And for people, maybe for the young generations, people who are getting into this big world, and they want to do something with their life, and then maybe they decided, okay, I want to create digital art. What
I
would be
think
your
I
advice to
think
them?
the thing that is the probably is the thing that helped me navigate my way through it is I jumped in and I really took part in the community, because when you're just starting to do it, you're like, well, you have this immense power, but what do you make? It's like you can create magic spells, but what are you going to make a spell with? you
Mhm.
know so the AI art community, and with having all of these contests and all of these themes, it's like, okay, go make a steampunk hot air balloon or something, and you would never think to make that before, but then you do, and then the next day you're making a lady, and then the third day you're like, well, what if I make a steampunk lady? Okay, and then you
Mhm.
start, and so then you kind of find your way through. It's like a school, it's like they're putting you through a school by giving you these little assignments, and
Mhm.
eventually you create this portfolio of your stuff, and you start finding out what you like and what you don't like, and you learn along the way. So I think being involved, even if you don't speak up, and you don't have to speak in these communities, you can just watch and you can participate without even speaking. But I think being involved in the participation aspect of it is what really taught me the most.
Mhm. But also, like, right now, when you mention about creating something which is like, outside the box, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's also is fascinating, that AI can help you to think completely different ways,
Totally.
that
Mm-hmm.
you can really put your mind into completely, I don't know, different different worlds, and then different ideas, different concepts which we never even thought before. Because even like, I've seen
Absolutely.
some of the other like work with you had with the animals and stuff, that's also is just like, how you even come up with something like you would never even like picture something like this before, and you just like you see it and it's real, and then you've created somehow
Yeah.
and just make
And that's
put
the
you
thing,
completely
you
in the
you have to
different.
really you have to really it's really challenging because you have to say, okay, I can't think about what's real, what's possible. And I had to really push myself into some surrealism for a while and really think outside the box. Like, okay, we can have floating fish. We can have houses made out of apples. We can have whatever we want if we can make the AI do it. So think big like that. Like we don't want just a rose in the hair. We want the hair to be made from roses. We don't want a
Mhm.
dress with rose pattern. We want the entire dress to be made of roses. Like just
Mhm.
make the make the AI
Yeah.
do what you want it to do. And
Yeah.
I think that's the fun part of the challenge is that you can take some ideas that you might have had and then just really bump it up 1,000%. And it's
Yeah.
fun just experimenting. A lot of it, like I said, I have 25,000 images, and most of it is just a lot of trash, because you have to
Yeah.
experiment and experiment and experiment and
Totally.
see what does it take to get
Yeah.
there.
And I also think that, one idea leads you to another one, right? So let's say
Oh,
you create
absolutely.
something and then you just like, okay,
Hmm.
this is good. Now I have like your brain kind of kicks in, and I don't know, just
Hmm.
different things start coming together, and then you just move to the next thing and the next thing. And then you just like
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're a completely different way of not even thinking, but creating things which you would never even thought you would be able to even imagine, right?
That's so true. And that's a positive thing. And it also can be a negative thing. Like I'll go down a certain path where I'm making things and one thing is leading to the next thing. And then I find myself in a little bit of a rut. And I think,
Hmm.
what am I doing? And then I'll go back and look a few months ago. What was I doing? And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, that was a really great idea. And I stopped doing that. Let me go back to doing that again. And then I'll go off on a whole different path. And so, yeah, that happens.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to backtrack and go down a different, it's like you're in a big city
But
and there's
don't
so
you
many
think
different
with that
paths.
kind of approach, I don't know, 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be just, I don't want to say completely different species, but we're going to be thinking completely different ways, because the AI right now, like, as you said, you're just creating things which we never, like back in the days, you even like, as you said, flying fish or something, we would be just like, okay, this is just like you're on drugs or something, right? But now you can put that into
Right.
reality, and you can
Yeah.
create something which is realistic, right? And then if we're
That's
going
a
to be just going this
fascinating,
path.
who knows what the creativity of little kids who are being born now, who, when they're 5, are going to have a computer that they can type. Chat GPT is put into a search browser now, and then you're going to be able to type a search and actually create an image in the search browser that you want. What is the creativity of those kids going to look like? I don't know. It's an interesting thought because they're going to be able to, their imaginations are going to be so big because they can think of, like, their box is going to be much larger, you know,
Yeah,
that they think outside
that's
of, because
exactly. Yeah.
the sky's the limit for them.
Yeah. They're gonna look
Yeah.
at
So
our work and be like, "Oh, Dad, you're just what were you thinking?"
so small. He's such a
this is
small
this
thinker, Dad.
Yeah, this is like a grade one or kindergarten level of creativity, right? And I've been just working on this for
Right.
30 years.
I think
Absolutely.
so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yes.
thank you so much for this conversation.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you.
truly honored I was able to talk to you. One thing what I want to say, uh, please, I don't know, in the 6 months or whatever, I would love to talk to you again. I'm gonna be just keep
Sure.
following your work, and I'm gonna be trying to be well. I'm gonna be inspired for sure, but I'll also try to jump in on the board and see what I'm able to do, because based on what you say, this is sounds extremely interesting, and then just for the sake of my own imagination, I would love to explore that a little bit. And yeah, and thank you for your openness to share, your experience, your knowledge, your creativity, like your creative process and all this stuff. Like I truly enjoy this conversation with you.
Well, I really appreciate it. There's no doubt there are other AI artists who have much bigger followings than I have, and are have been doing it a little longer than I have. So
Mhm.
I was really skeptical at first when you asked me, but I'm
Yes,
super flattered and really honored to speak with you.
absolutely.
So
I had
thank you.
no trust me, and I was really well, like when I saw your work for the first time, like I as I said, I couldn't get my eyes out of it, and then I was keep whenever I right now, even looking at Instagram, your whenever you post something comes up right away, so I just kind of
What
have
does it?
first access, yeah,
Thank you.
to see your work. Yeah, and then
I
yeah,
appreciate
let's keep in touch. I will tag all the informations about you, so everyone who's watching this and would love to see more of your work. You're on Instagram. Are you like somewhere else, or this is just where you mostly post your work?
I do have a smug mug portfolio, but I don't
Okay.
have the AI work on that. So
Okay. So
I could.
Instagram would
I'm
be the
probably gonna
most.
add it, but yeah,
Okay,
just my Instagram if you want.
absolutely. Perfect. I'll add all this information so people can really dive into your amazing creations in your world. And yeah, and thank you so much for chatting with me. As I said, I'm extremely honored.
Thank you.